definitely one that I didn't want to end. Um, wow, beautiful. Okay, so any comments, questions? Feels like we should just start again.
Drop your point number 2. I must skip you for that. So could you just give it to me again?
Dave, you asked about point number 2.
Yeah.
God's power is already resident in you, but is looking for traction.
Yeah.
And that was 2 Corinthians 4:7. We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. And I just spoke about the internal alignment that needs to happen, and that's really just allowing the false self to die and allowing the true self, which is Christ's nature in us, that's unique to each of us to live. And practically in centering prayer, that just happens as we let go of thoughts that are associated with our false self, our need for control, affirmation, or security. So, either comments, questions about this, or generally about the practice? We have our friend Doug Roberts here from Colorado, who told us yesterday that he's practiced this for around 30 years. So I'm just delighted, because my answers that I give often to the questions are a little bit what I think, or theoretical.
I have a question, Rob.
Yeah, Maggie.
So just thinking about the actual practice of it, and what allows the Father to do his work in you, I've been sort of thinking about it and thinking that it's more about the process of, like you were saying, of dying to self, the false self, getting rid of thoughts, and doing that consciously, and you're sort of saying, no, thought, you're not important at the moment, God is important, and what he wants to do in me is important, rather than just coming to a place of rest and the mind not thinking about anything. Because in a way, to me, that's sleep. You could say to the Father, you could give the permission to our Heavenly Father before we go to sleep and say, okay, while I'm still during these 8 hours, you can do what you want to do. So I'm guessing that the change comes is because you are consciously making a decision to be quiet when you're awake. You see what I mean?
You know, you put it so beautifully, and I've never had that thought before. Or what's the difference between centering prayer and sleep? And obviously neurologically it's different. Your brain is in a different state. But yes, you're very conscious, very aware. I remember a pastor friend of mine in South Africa was worried about this practice, and he said, yeah, but let's say I'm doing this and this thought just comes into my mind that I should divorce my wife. How will I have any resistance to it? And that's a total misunderstanding of meditation. You're more aware, you're more conscious of that something like that is rubbish and you need to let it go. And intention. In one of our early sessions on the beginner's course, we spoke about intention is the key to this. So what holds you in the place of that awareness of God is intention, which is to consent to his presence. And and whenever your intention grows fuzzy, you reaffirm your intention with your sacred word. That's what you're doing. But I do want to pick up on two little things you said. This isn't a striving exercise. It's not. It's work of a sort. It's work of surrendering and letting go of attachment to thoughts. But it's not a very difficult process of I need to fly swat my thoughts and worry about them, chase them around. It's not that. It's when they arise, let them float by like a boat on the river. And if you find that you got in the boat, then without being hard on yourself, just gently get out of the boat and get back in the river. It's a very peaceful. So you use the word gentle almost, rest almost as an alternative on the sleep side. And it's not, because this is rest. This is the true rest, is silence in God. What's not restful is engaging in that thought about your need for affirmation. That's sucking the life out of you. And when you let go of that thought, let's say that's an argument going on in your mind with a boss or somebody that upset you, and the reason that's coming up is because you've got this need for affirmation. That's the false energy, the false self that needs to die. And because it's sucking the life out of you, and it's rest when you let go of that, and then instead you're enjoying the life from this power of God that's flowing in you. So anyway, that's my answer to that. Don, Doug, any other comments to Maggie's great question?
When you say intent, I think that really is the key. When you're sleeping, yes, you're letting go, but your dreams take over, and I think your mind is still very active. And when you sit down to meditate, like you said, Rob, it's not like you've got a fly swatter that you attack your thoughts or you try to squash them. The process, again, like you said, is really just letting go. You've got that intent, and letting go of the thought, not engaging that thought, is really what allows your mind then to open up to the presence of God. I think you said it really very well.
Thank you.
Doug, any other general thoughts for us?
One quick thought about thought. I try to picture, like if there's a thought, picture cutting them off, like my fingers are scissors, and letting them drop to the ground. And some you just pick up later. For instance, you got a thought of something you have to do. And I see that as part of self having to die. And because it's Easter, this kind of came to me. When a plant dies, right? Whatever's on the plant falls to the ground, and then the seed goes into the earth. And when the seed emerges, it ends up being something almost perfect and beautiful, which kind of reminds me of this weekend, Resurrection.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful thought. Very beautiful. And that, what I heard you say is you've got this kind of mental image of it just cutting off a thought and then it drops to the ground. And that's a bit like the sacred word, that, you know, a sacred word can be a word, and it's recommended that it just be a short word. But the sacred word could also be an image like that you go to. It could also just be being aware of your breath. So it's anything that is short for a prayer that lets go and that says, Christ, I want your presence and your action in my life.
And yes, I do have a word. My word is present to be in the present.
It's a good one.
I just need to be a person that's in the present, so that's my word.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Doug, you were going to say something there. I think.
Oh, when sometimes when you say what's the difference between meditation and sleep, aside from intent, I think sometimes when you come to the end of a session, it almost feels like you've not been there. I mean, there in the room, it's almost like you've been in a different space, and to that extent, it is almost like sleep, because you're almost not aware of your surroundings, and so sometimes when the bell first rings, you take the time like you're waking from sleep, but you're not. You're returning in some sense to the physical surrounding, because there's a restfulness or a feeling of, not always, sometimes you can feel, it's like you struggled and it's been, you filled with thoughts and agitation, but the thing that's constant is that intent to be present. Even when you feel that it's been a real struggle to sit for 20 minutes, what that constant is that intention, I think.
Awesome. Awesome. Probably one last comment or question. Stuart, you got anything here, man? You seem to really enjoy this morning.
Yeah, it's great. My only thought was, it's like, man, this feels like a church service. After we finish, amen.
A good church service, that is. They're not all that good,
No, but it feels like, I've just been to church. Time to go home then.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else from Northern Canada or South Africa? Dave and Alan. All good? Okay.
Good, thanks, Rob. Yeah.
All right, dear friends. Well, enjoy the rest of Easter, man, and enjoy the resurrection power that's there, and it's inside. And I think this is one of the greatest ways to experience it actually, not as psychology, but as actual. Greetings.
Yeah.